On this episode of Wealth Magazine Business Access, Cari-Med's Glen talks about growing up poor.
I did not get my first pair of shoes until I was 13 years old.
Beating the odds.
I was the first man of color, as they would want to say, that was coming in, at that level to compete.
And seizing every opportunity.
If you make the morning pass, and you don't make use of the morning, the night is going to be double dark. I'm Glen, CEO and Chairman of the Cari-Med group of companies. Glen is a little country boy from the hills of Clarendon. I am one of 14 children. My father actually passed on when I was 2 years, 11 months, so my mother was very instrumental, along with my stepfather, in growing us up. I attended the Brandon Hill Primary School. Then I went on to sit the Jamaica local examination. Brandon is a farming community, and my parents were involved in agriculture. My mother, who died in 1979, she actually was a higgler, if you understand the term. We used to sell our goods in Coronation Market and St. Anne's Bay Market, and I played a role in that as well. I used to have to go to market with her every Saturday to Kellits. It was 6 miles that I walk behind her every Saturday morning while she rode the donkey. She taught me all the, what I call entrepreneurship skills, which I call the buy and sell business. I would go to the market with her on Saturdays and learn to buy all the agricultural products that she would take to market. I would then help her on Sundays to pack those markets to get them on the truck to go to Kingston. And whenever she could not go to Kingston for one reason or another, whether she was ill or other reasons, she would send me to Coronation Market, where I learned the business. It was not easy. It was not a big house. So the boys would actually, like myself, would have to sleep on the floor while the girls sleep on the bed. And going to school every morning, we had to go to the field, right? Milk the cow, cut grass. It's a farming community. We had sugar cane. We had to stop from school and reap cane and assist in all of that, drive donkey. During the coffee season, we pick coffee. So you participated in every aspect of the farming and what helped us to live. When you look at the community leaders in the district, who are they? The teachers, the pastor, the health inspector, the policeman. And we all always wanted to be, take on one of those professions, because that's what we know. We didn't know anything about business in rural Jamaica. And knowing that we're poor, what my mother instilled in us is the moral and spiritual values. Church twice every Sunday, school, And she let us know from day one that if we want to become a teacher or a health inspector or a policeman, education is going to be the poor man's passport to life. So those things were inculcated. I mean, you have to wake up every morning at 5 to get on the field. You have to go to the market. You have to work in the cane. You have to pick coffee. You have to do everything. I did not get my first pair of shoes until I was 13 years old. It was made by a shoemaker. And I walked probably about 8 miles from my home, about 6 times before I got that pair of shoes. You have never wear a pair of shoes before. I mean, well, you know something, it was no big thing because a lot of people in the district didn't have shoes. A few people have shoes. But that pair of shoe, I remember the first time I put it on is to go to concert at the church because I used to perform the Christmas concert. And I remember it, you know, it was so tough, it burned me to the point where, I don't know, I didn't get cross-eye. And then, by the time I came off the platform, I had to take it off, you know. But it was exciting, you know, because, you know, the first time, you know, you're wearing shoes. And you saw your mother working hard, you know, to make an honest living. And so that was passed on. So that is in my DNA, you know. If you want good, you know that to run. 1 cocoa, full basket. My stepfather, Edward Mitchell, would tell you, if you make the morning pass, and you don't make use of the morning, the night is going to be double dark. So whatever you have to do it early. I mean, study hard, discipline yourself, be committed to what you believe in. You know, stay out of trouble. And we had nothing to fall back on. All along, what I try to do is to grab whatever opportunities that come my way, and this I still apply to my life. So when I came to Kingston in 1961 and realized how hard it is back in the country, then I just had to do my best at the post office. I didn't even have a permanent job, but I used to get to the post office every morning, like around 6 o'clock, for the inspector to see me. So a permanent worker didn't turn up, he would see me. And then, you know, I get the call. So all along, what I try to do is to grab whatever opportunities that come my way, and this I still apply to my life. Those days, it was looked down on as a postman and so on. But you recognize that that's what you have to do, take what you get until you get what you want. And to make the best of it, because while I was at the post office, I was still studying to move on so that I could be matriculated to move on to Michael College. So it was seeking opportunity, because you can't just stand up and wishing and hoping that something is going to come to you. You have to go and look for it. And when you would have found it, you ensure that you maximize, you know, your potential and whatever opportunities are there. Worked at the post office for over 5 years. I saved my money and I went on to the Michael College, which is now the Michael University College, where I did teaching. I graduated in 1967, and then I taught in Portland, Buff Bay for a year. Then I went to Chapelton in Clarendon, where I worked with the Ministry of Youth as a teacher at the St. Augustine's Boys Home. My wife, Marva, my wife who was a tower of strength, my batchmate, She was actually teaching at Chapton Primary and Clarendon College. We became tight. We liked each other from college, but she wasn't taking me on at that point in time. I was probably too much of a Romeo, I don't know. They said I carried that appearance, but I, you know, in my true character, I'm a good boy, you know. And we got married in 1970. And then we realized after a while that the salary that both of us were working could not even help us to get a motor car. So I started out trying to sell encyclopedia, Grolier encyclopedia. Made some money, and I was able to buy her a stove that she could bake. So I became the pharmaceuticals sales manager at H.J. Appleton in 1977. And I held that position until 1986. So during that period, around 1979, I acquired the only pharmacy which was in Portmore. It was in the Bayside Plaza, called Portmore Pharmacy. And while I was working at H.J. Appleton Company, that business was being run by my wife, Marba Christian. And in 1986, I decided to go out on my own, and I formed Cari-Med. Actually, the company was incorporated in 1985, and we commenced business in 1986 by introducing generic drugs into Jamaica. We started with 3 employees. Today, the group has over 800 employees. We distribute for some of the top companies. In the pharmaceutical side, I think of the 12 companies, top companies in the world, we represent at least 9 of them. In the consumer side, we are a major player in the household side of business. Rickett and Coleman, products like Lysol and those popular products, Wrigley's. We represent the Colgate company, we represent the Procter & Gamble, we represent Johnson & Johnson. In 2006, we acquired the Colgate business in Jamaica. That is what we call company out of Colgate. We have Kirk Distributors. Kirk Distributors also carry the Kendall products, which are food lines. And that company we acquired in 2014. In business, you try to look out for an opportunity. And the opportunity was that there was a demand for generic drugs. So I identified the need for generics, and so I started with generics. A lot of the challenges that I faced in the beginning, as you know, back in the 1986, we had license and quota system. To get a quota, you had to have a history of importing. So my entrance into the business was going to also be very, very difficult because I didn't have a history of importing, and the foreign exchange was very short at that point in time. So that was one of the greatest challenge that I had. I faced the challenge of the establishment, which ended up my getting a raid in my business on the 28th of January 1987. That brought me to tears, because the establishment believed that I did not belong, and they conspired, and that ended up with a raid on my business at Lady Musgrave Road, my pharmacy in Portmore, some of my customers, and even at my home. But I recall the late Carl Wint, who followed this story. And on Sunday morning after the raid, I could see the Gleaner's headline about the concern of the pharmaceutical moguls. And it was the best advertisement I could get. I was the first man of color, as they would want to say, that was coming in, you know, at that level to compete. The consumer business came out of the fact that as a businessman and as a successful businessman, I don't know of any businessman, successful one that lives in a comfort zone. And we were so successful so quickly by doing the right thing that I looked at that and see that there were always opportunities. And nothing like the right time, because when I got into the consumer business, we had a lot of companies like Gillette, Rickett and Coleman. All of these companies, what you would refer to as standalone companies, were handling their own distribution in Jamaica. And they were looking for distributors. And because of our success story in the pharmaceutical industry, we were able to get those businesses. Again, why you get those business is because you have a good track record. You have references that you pay your bill. You have references that you are able to give good service to the customer. The customer speaks for you. And that triggered off the consumer side of our business. And the good thing about it, you have to know, they claim that presents give you preference. When you represent a company like Gillette, or you represent a company like Colgate, you are easily attract all other big companies because they know what it takes to run their business. So what you have to do, make sure that you're delivering what your supplier wants. And then it is easy. And as I said before, you cannot win without people. Your people have to be prepared. We boast that probably 90% of our managers are homegrown. They join the company and there are opportunity for growth. As I've always said to my staff, I cannot tell you when a door is going to be open, meaning when I'm going to acquire a new business, but be prepared to walk through that door. And it is always better because the people know your culture and where you're coming from. Success gives you confidence, but it's a delicate thing. You have to balance that. Being referred to as the first grassroots PSOG Hall of Fame was a surprise when that called me to say that, and being humbled by it. But what it does also is that it raises the bar. It means that you are being rewarded for good work, but nobody expects you to stay there. And so, I pray and I ask everyone to pray to give for that, the courage and the energy. I pray to God for good health and to continue to serve my purpose. I see these things as, you're here to serve a purpose. You're touching lives. And you can't stop there. And people tell you, when will you stop? You say you're here to serve your purpose. And when you finish doing anything, when I do an acquisition, whether it was Colgate or Federated or the Cari-Med building up the road. I see that project, that's a project that finished. I started looking for other opportunities. And success gives you confidence, but it's a delicate thing. You have to be you have to balance that, because sometimes you become overconfident and you can drive yourself into trouble. You ruin your health and ruin your business. You have to monitor that. But I have a lot of family, friends, employees who they watch me, they pray for me, and they help me, they encourage me. So it's a real challenge. It's a real challenge. You ask me what keeps me up in the night, I'll tell you Jamaica. We need jobs, right? There are so much opportunities in this country, right? And what I really want to see is that we understand where the opportunities are. Take it sector by sector, whatever business you are into. Is it the tourism sector? Is it agriculture? There are a lot of opportunities in the construction sector. I think what is really holding us back is the bureaucracy. It's the bureaucracy. And I would love to see, with all the problems we are having, to see whether we can bridge that trust between the private and the public sector. There's still what I call a great trust deficit between the two sectors. And I understand the problem that the public sector sometimes have, because you have all of these contractor general and the rules and regulations, to the point where sometimes people can't even use their discretion anymore. And I wish that we can then look at some of these laws, because I think we are making an improvement on the whole on the corruption index there. I think we have gone up some 7 places. And in terms of Jamaica, the ease of doing business, I think we have made some improvement in that area. So Jamaica is a very attractive place. I have seen what I call some low-hanging fruits. Every day I've been talking about our downtown, our market district. There's so much opportunity in that very Coronation Market that I spoke about. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about through just putting the facilities that will draw people in. The private sector is willing to work with the government. I've been trying to bring a team of businessmen together. We have been looking at it. We just want to sit with the powers that be, right? So the private sector, I think, we really want to just bridge that gap and so we can drive Jamaica forward. You know, there's a lot of sacrifice that have been made with the IMF, but we don't need to grow the economy. And the growth is not going to come unless we really look at what is holding this back. And I believe that if we look at where they are, you know, the time it takes to process everything and process things, it just have to move. So, you know, that's what I want to do. The bar has been risen for me, and I just want to continue to do that, because I have the people, and I understand I have the know-how, and I have the passion. Early childhood education is near to my heart. I have invested a lot in early childhood education. Being my background as a teacher, I understand the problem why we only have 30% of our children leaving secondary school to go to university. Why it is so low? It is so low because the child from 3 to 6, which the brain is so productive and want to learn, that the foundation is not being laid. So I have invested in that by trying to merge basic schools into infant schools. We have done that, one in Clarendon, where we built one in memory of my mother. I want education early childhood education was going to be my legacy, because without education, we cannot be successful as a nation. Money can't buy happiness. It's service, serving a purpose that gives you true happiness. Wealth, to me, is very important, because when you create wealth, you're touching lives. You cannot make an meaningful impact without creating wealth. And I'll talk about on the economic side, and because people make a lot of contribution and impact through education and so on. But what the wealth does, you are really creating employment, and you are able to be a good corporate citizen to give back and to touch lives. It also makes you feel secure. So you are able to take care of your family and take care of your responsibilities. It's a comfortable place to be, looking at all the challenges that one could have when you find yourself into a certain situation and you are not able to, whether it's for your personal use or your family or for your friends, you are not able to respond. So for me, it's a very, very comfortable, inspiring position to be in. And it's all good. Yeah?